What's up, strongest men, women, and children from blocks all around the world? I am my block's strongest man, and tonight we have high drama in Sacramento, California at World's Strongest Man 2021. Crazy things happening every day, day 1, day 2, and now again, day 3. So what are the things that have happened at World's Strongest Man today? Well, first and foremost, Alexei Novikov, after the great comeback that he made on the overhead medley, goes into the front hold, earns 2 points, and is in 4th place. He is out. He does not qualify for the stone off, and much less wins the group. The defending champion, Alexei Novikov, will not advance to the finals. High drama in Sacramento, California. Other than that, we had Brian Shaw doing what he needed to do. Brian needed to not zero the pickaxe hold to secure the win in Group 1. Hey, Ken, what's up? So Brian needed 1 point. He needed to just not zero the pickaxe hold in order to make sure he won Group 1. The other guys would not be able to make up the points. So my guess, he went over, picked it up, and put it right back down, and that's enough to get 1 point. Go away, go rest, be nice and refreshed, avoid a stone off, and be good for the finals. So Brian wins. Maxime Boudreault and Ivar Schmockstellis will go into the stone off today. So stone offs have not happened yet, but so much drama thus far that I needed to get on today, and I can get on again later after the stone offs. Wanted to bring you these updates. Going to Group 2, drama there as well. Trey Mitchell leapfrogs over Tom Stoltman to win Group 2. Tom Stoltman had a firm grasp on winning Group 2 and now has to go into a stone off. So for Tom, of course, no problem. He's the best stone lifter in the world. But why do an extra event if you don't have to, right? So that's Group 2. Trey Mitchell was kind of lingering, not near the bottom, but not number 1 either. And, with these last few events, Trey picked up 5 points in the overhead medley and 5 points in the front hold. So finishes strong by winning 2 events to get into first place for Group 2. What's up, Will Morrissey? Do you think Oberst's strategy is going to pay off? I don't know. What is his strategy? I thought his strategy was just to come in slimmer and do his best to be fast and strong. Tell me more about what do you think his strategy is? Because I would like to really hear about that. He had a post where he said, he won his pickaxe hold in his group as well. And he said, I have the strongest shoulders in the world. Hate me if you want. Nobody hates you. Well, maybe some people do. I don't hate you, Obi. I don't. I think you're not as good of a deadlifter as a lot of the other guys. I think you're an incredible overhead presser. Those are just facts. No hate and all kinds of praise for everything that you're doing here with the pickaxe, with the loading medley. When you do well, you get praise. It's simple as that. There's no denying that you did well in those particular events. So in terms of strategy, I don't know exactly what you mean. Other than it seems like he came in lighter this year. Like did he say he cut 30 pounds or something like that in the last month or so? So that would be what I think of his strategy. So Ken, pretty excited Brian won. I hope Maxime gets through. Me too. I don't think I make a secret for the fact that I root for Maxime. I interviewed Maxime on my channel and with Sam Beliveau. So they're together and you see them together in pictures there on Instagram in Sacramento. So I interviewed them both together. Wonderful people, both of them. And I really like Maxime a lot and hope he gets through. And not only hope, but I always felt he had a good chance to get through. Maxime has put all the time since last year's World's Strongest Man until now, practicing stones. And I don't know if you're aware, but JF has been training him. So I interviewed both those guys, so I have this extra information. JF has been training Maxime on all of his, what he thought were deficiencies. So yokes, stones, that kind of stuff. And Maxime was trying to get to a 500-pound stone before he got to World's Strongest Man 2021, which is heavier than the 210 kilo that they'll be asked to do as the heaviest stone there. So Maxime is ready to go. He's become one of the best stone lifters in the world. So Ivars is an incredibly well-rounded athlete. They've gone kind of back and forth here throughout all of the events. But in a stone off, I think Maxime's going to take him. So I think the only people above Maxime in stones right now are Trey Mitchell, Tom Stoltman, and Brian Shaw. Anybody else, Maxime's got a good shot of beating them on stones. So very excited and hope Maxime goes through as well. I think he'll do decent. He was not going to win the whole thing, but he'll do decent in the finals. Some of those events bode well for him. I think almost all of the events bode well for Brian. So Brian Shaw, now that he's kind of cruised into the finals and done it in a way where I don't want to say he didn't have to expend a lot of energy, but he certainly avoided a stone off, which would have been expending more energy. So I think Brian's poised. He looks a lot more calm to me than last year. I think he heaped a lot of stress on himself last year to make sure all the other guys were taken care of, and he has said as much on his social media. He looks a lot more at ease this year and calm and collected, and I think that he's going to go into the finals in a great state of mind and with a set of events that really suit him. Like, who's going to beat him on keg toss for height? Tom Stoltman will come close. Nobody's going to beat Brian on keg toss for height. I think Oberst will do well, but he won't beat Brian. My kind of biggest sad news here, besides Novikov not making it through, I was rooting really hard for Evan Singleton, and this has not been confirmed, but I heard he's sick. Like, I don't know if it's a stomach bug or a flu or what is it. It's all conjecture at this point, but I heard he's ill of some kind, like he's not at the peak of his powers. And so I really would have, especially after the injury last year, I would have loved to have seen him at his best and see what he really could do with some of these events. So Lucas says, what sucks for Novikov is if they did a count back for all the events like they used to, he'd be in the stone off. Very good point. So the count back goes to the last event, which is the pickaxe. And so in the last event, he earned 2 points, and he was tied with Kevin Ferris at 17. Kevin Ferris earned 4 points on the pickaxe. So that's what happened there, if you were wondering. So you have Bobby Thompson, another guy I really root big time for. So Bobby Thompson ends up winning Group 5, which I believe I had said in my original predictions before talking to Big Laws and kind of changing my position. So we'll reevaluate that all after World's Strongest Man's over, of which of my predictions had more correct predictions in them, or more correct picks. But Bobby ends up winning Group 5 with 18 points because he did 5 points on that front hold pickaxe. And so he ends up in a tie with Luke Stoltman at 18 points. Luke got 3 points on the pickaxe. So count back, Bobby ends up beating Luke for position number 1. Luke becomes position number 2. And then Kevin Ferris and Alexei tied at 17 points go into a count back where Kevin Ferris wins position number 3. So now it's going to be Luke Stoltman and Kevin Ferris in a stone off. So I'm picking Luke there. Let me know what any of you in the comment section think about who's going to win the stone off between Luke Stoltman and Kevin Ferris. I think Luke is a good stone lifter, and I think Luke's going to take that one. Let's see. So Will says it was more or less to pace himself so he doesn't burn out. Oh, for Oberst, I think we're talking about. Okay. All right. That makes sense. So, well, going back to that, do I think his strategy of pacing himself is, I don't know, like that only applies to certain events, right? Like, how do you pace yourself on a pickaxe hold? You just stand there and and do it, right? The one point I'll make about the pickaxe, though, is there was some like kind of, if you watched him do it on Strongest Man in History, he also was the best of Brian Shaw, Nick Best, Eddie Hall, and himself. He lasted the longest and seemed to do it pretty easily. But then the other guys were saying, well, you're leaning too far back and whatnot. Well, hey, in this case, there was a post behind them like you would use in a strict curl bar. And he couldn't go anywhere with his back. So you gotta hand it to him. He did it in a strict way and still won it. So, yeah, so stuff like that, you can't really pace yourself. Pacing would come into like a loading race. Maybe if he makes it, in like the Giants medley, for example, something like that. But, if he were to make it into the finals. Speaking of which, that's the one I'm having the hardest trouble picking. So I'm honestly not that familiar with Robert Oberst's stone ability. My buddy Hunger Smash Fitness is saying he thinks Aethor will beat him. What do folks in the comments think? Who has a better Atlas stone, Aethor Melstead or Robert Oberst? Could use your help there. Jess says, poor Luke, so many events he missed out by less than a second. Should have won the group. I'm with you there. I'm just glad he did as well as he did because, as I mentioned on previous streams and previous videos, when Luke and Tom did their last video together, kind of doing their own picks of who was going to win everything, Luke seemed a little like dejected kind of, but I think in watching him more, they did another video very recently where they were kind of in the car on the way to the events and he was soft-spoken like that too. I think he was just conserving energy. Like in retrospect, I don't think he was sad or dejected at all. I think he was just conserving energy, being introspective, focusing. Like I know what I have in front of me, and I don't have to be boisterous about it. And we're just going to go do the job. So I really love watching Luke Stoltman compete, and I'm glad I was wrong about how well he ended up doing. Let's see. He was going for points enough to qualify for first overall in the group. Okay. Colorado Awesome Sauce. Thanks for coming back, buddy. Interesting results. The big shocker for me is Evan Singleton getting beat by Mark Felix. Yeah. The biggest shocker for me was Evan Singleton, his points in many different areas. And again, like from what I hear, he's not himself. Like he's or not at his best anyway. Like he has some sort of illness. It's unconfirmed. Of course, it's just rumor at this point, but unconfirmed. And by the way, just taking a quick break, if anybody's noticed my new t-shirt, this stream is being brought to you by Kratos Strength Equipment. So anybody that doesn't know Kratos Strength Equipment, if you need equipment fabricated, Andrew over at Kratos is a great fabricator out of Minnesota. Hit him up on DMs if you have any need for any equipment to be made. And check out KratosStrengthEquipment.com for awesome swag like this. So that's Kratos Strength Equipment. Definitely my buddy Andrew, nicest guy in the world. He'll take care of you. Novikov and Evan out. Wow. Yes. Wow to both of those. For sure. Funny thing is, with all of this hubbub going on, I didn't even see where one of my favorite guys, Travis, where is he? So he's last, unfortunately. So he's out as well. 10 points for Travis. That's unfortunate. He was kind of toward the middle of the pack during some of this. He did well in some areas. So Travis had 3 points on the loading race, so he had a good start, and I thought he would do well. Squat, he came in with only the single point, came in last there, and then Fingles 3 points again there. So I thought things were going well for him. Overhead melee did not work out, so only got the one implement, and then front hold he ended up with 2 points there. So still above Brian Shaw, but that's only because Brian Shaw knew he only needed 1 point. So as we said at the beginning of this stream, Brian Shaw could not zero the front hold and guarantee that he would win the group. He needed 1 point, and all you need to do to get 1 point to be last is to move the implement. So likely, again, we have no footage, but likely he went out there, picked it up, and put it down and got his point. That's my guess of what happened. And if I didn't mention it before during this stream, I have in past streams. Huge thanks again to Eloi Fournier for putting together all of these awesome results for us to be able to talk about. So Eloi, thanks, buddy. We really do appreciate it. I'm going to shoot you over a DM to thank you personally for making all this possible for us to talk about, kind of in lieu of not having footage to look at. EJB Automotive, Oberst will win the group. Well, he can't win the group, right? So win the stone off, I think you mean. So Oberst will win a stone off over Athor. I don't have a strong position either way, so I'll take your word for it there. Athor at one time and may still have an overhead natural stone press world record, but that is different from an Atlas stone onto a pedestal. So it's kind of difficult to tell there, and it's a different shaped implement as well. Cutter Thompson says Obi was training stones with Shaw. That's got to be an advantage. I'll go with you on that for sure. I think anybody who was training anything with Shaw is an advantage. So Evan Singleton did a bunch of training with Shaw. He looked super fast with they did the yoke into the frame medley. So if Evan were at full power right now and had made it into the finals, I think he would do really well with that particular event. Evan also looked incredible, picking up tips from Brian Shaw on that keg from max height. So Brian is like the king of that, but Evan wasn't that far lower. Like he was making some big heights there. And I think when you have somebody with that level of experience in 4 championships, kind of tips and insight just are in the air. They kind of just get into you by osmosis, right? And even Brian was doing a truck push with Steve Foshin was there, I believe. And it looked like Steve was hitting the brakes while they were pushing it to make it harder. So they did a pickup truck push, Brian and Evan. And again, that's maybe something Evan would have never trained by himself. And the train pull yesterday turned into a push. So there you go, right? Like somebody training with somebody with that much experience can only be helpful. Colorado Awesome Sauce. Both Stoltmans going to stone offs should be good for Tom. It might come down to conditioning for Luke. That's a good point. So Tom, I think anybody would admit or would surmise that it's a given, right? Tom beats anybody at stones, unless he got into one with Trey, where he probably still would beat him, but it would be very difficult. But anybody else, Tom's, I think, unless you all disagree, Tom's good to go with stones. He will beat Mark Felix at stones, or anybody else for that matter. I was really happy to see my buddy JF Caron win his group. So JF picks up 3 points on the front pickaxe hold, enough to put him at 20 points in first place in his group. So JF sails on through to the finals, as we all expected. JF in his 11th World's Strongest Man. He's 9 times Canada's Strongest Man. And let's see if he can make the podium this time around. I think I had originally, a long time ago, before I even knew the events, thought that maybe he could win it this year, but Brian's looking too strong. I don't think anybody's going to take first place from Brian. He's looking too strong in the qualifiers, and the events in the finals are too well suited to him. He's got stones, which he's one of the top couple of guys in the world at. He has keg toss for height, which he's maybe the best in the world at. It's going to be very, very, very difficult to see anybody beating Brian out at this point, especially the way that he's looking. He looks way better than he did last year. Patrick says, got here late and watched from the beginning. Just wanted to thank you for all the updates. Thank you very much, Patrick. I really appreciate you coming in and checking out all the hard work that I'm doing to try to bring you all of the updates and analysis of that updates. Again, Eloi Fournier, the one who's giving us all of the data that we can analyze and have all these great discussions about. So thanks again to Eloi. But yeah, thanks, Patrick. I really appreciate it. I have been working hard to try to get lots of updates for all of you, and I'll come back on later again after the stone off has been done. Actually, while we're here, let me refresh this and see if we have any updates there yet. So I'm going to refresh that, and we do not. So just making sure you're getting the latest up-to-date stuff here. EJB Automotive says Oberst is better at heavy stones, so for the 210K stone, Oberst will take it. Okay, so you're feeling like both guys will make it to the 210, and then Oberst will maybe get it, and Aethor won't, or Oberst will get more reps with it than Aethor. That's fair enough. He's also taller, right? So that's got to count for something. It's the same height bar for both guys, right? So it's got to count for something that one guy's measurably taller than the other guy. Jess Pernod says, big advantage to the Stoltmans going second in stones. I expect the brothers to go through. I expect them to go through too, both of them. And again, like, awesome. Like, not that I'm not a Tom Stoltman fan. He's fine, but like, I really enjoy Luke. Like, I really like watching Luke compete. Oops, sorry there.